Okay. Um, this is a little preamble before my video. I made a video last week about the Mets and their struggle. To the Mets have really played kind of awful baseball since June, since I think June 13th when Kodai Senga got hurt. And I made a video about what my feelings on that stuff, but I didn't get a chance to upload it. But it's good in a way because I want to update it a little bit. I'm gonna still have you're still gonna have my that original video. It's gonna come on after this, okay? But my update to that video is that Norm McLean, who they brought up, he's pitched two great games. He pitched in Citi Field, and he pitched last night in Atlanta, and he pitched 7 innings, 7 strong innings, and he looks like a keeper. He looks like a stopper. So I'm glad that he's in the rotation. Now, what I also want is uh, Frankie Montas, he got hurt, who to me ain't a big loss. I don't know if they're faking that or maybe using that as an excuse to bring up Brandon Sprout, which they could be using it because I think the next possible time that Brandon Sprout could pitch is probably Monday when they get back to Citi Field against the Phillies. So I think they may do that, and they may be using this Frankie Montas injury to have an excuse to um, to bring Brandon Sprout up. And also, I definitely think they should DFA, like I said before, they should DFA Ryan Stanek. Let's get it over with because it's beyond ridiculous. Who else? Hold on. There's somebody else that I want them to actually send down. Send down. Send down for the hold on, because he has options. Yeah, Reed Garrett. That's him. Reed Garrett. They need to send him down because he has an option, which means they can send him down and then for 2 weeks or 15 days, and then bring him up when they expand the rosters because he's just been giving up runs left and right. Including yesterday, he came in the game and gave up 2 runs. And came in the game. Helsley, the guy that got in the trade with St. Louis, but unfortunately with him, you kind of can't. He doesn't have the option of sending him down because he's been quite awful. And even last night, he gave up, I think, 2 to 3 runs. He gave up last night in that game. This, had made the game a 12-2 game. They made that game between the two of these idiots. They gave up 5 runs and made the game 12-7. Thankfully, they were trying to blow it, but they thankfully didn't do. But I wouldn't put Helsley in any high stakes situation because he just, I don't know what they said. He's basically his breaking pitches are not landing, and basically and the hitters are just sitting on his fastball waiting and ripping it left and right. So I wouldn't put him in any high leverage situation. Like I said, Reed Garrett, they have the option. He has the option that you can send him back down for 2 weeks, and that's what I would do. I would send him back down for a reset, for a rest. Let them work on his breaking pitches and stuff and get a reset. And I think they're supposed to be bringing Bazaban up. That's what I thought I saw on Wardy, a podcaster who covers the Mets. I think they're bringing up Bazaban. And I know Tyler McGill, he pitched in another minor league game, and I think he has one more rehab start to go. So but they need to bring up, excuse me, they need to bring up Brandon Spout. I would also like them to bring up, excuse me, Jonah Tong, but I don't think they're going to bring him up. I think they'll bring up Brandon Spout, and I think they'll bring up Tyler McGill. I think they're not going to bring up Jonah Tong, no matter how great he is. I don't think they're going to bring him up till next year, and probably not. He'll probably start the year. They already transferred him to AAA, and I think they'll let him start the year in AAA. And I think midway through the year, I think after the All-Star break, they're going to bring up Jonah Tong, okay, because he's been killing it in the minor leagues. Okay, and so this is what I would do. I would, like I said, hopefully, like I said tonight, Clay Holmes is pitching. Hopefully, he gives us that last Sunday he pitched, gave us 5 good strong innings. So hopefully he can do that tonight against the Braves. But maybe Sean Manaea, maybe they need to put him in the bullpen too because he can pitch. He was the last game against Washington. He was pitching good for 3 innings, then he just imploded. And maybe, again, because he has his floaty things in his elbow, he's probably going to require surgery. So maybe the best thing would be to put him in the bullpen, too, and put Brandon Sprout and what you call it, and Tyler McGill in the rotation. That's what I would do. Okay, maybe Mania can bank off of what you call another pitcher, or maybe even Kodai Senga. Maybe he can, piggy bank off of him. But I think that's what the Mets should do. Bring up Sprout. Like I said, I would love them to bring up Jordan Tang, but I don't think they're going to bring up. I don't think they're going to bring him up. Jordan Tong, but I don't think they're going to bring him up. But bring up Brandon Sprout. Have him and Norm McLean, Peterson, and you can have Tyler McGill and Kodai Senga in the rotation. I think that's the best bet to do. Okay, that's as far as and again, and Carlos, and I just again DFA Ryan Static. I don't know what they're waiting on. They need to DFA him and get it over with. And now they say Frankie Montas is hurt. I DFA him too, but I know they're probably not going to do that. But I would DFA him too because he's a bum. Okay. Anyway, so that's just my preamble and stuff. Like I said, the Mets won yesterday against the Braves, and hopefully, I'm hoping that they can win this series and stuff. So they, and then next thing they're coming home against the Phillies, you are in the division, and hopefully, gain some ground on them too, and then play the Marlins for 4 games. So anyway, the next thing you'll see will be me talking about the Mets struggles last week when I recorded it. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of update this and explain why that video didn't go up last week. Okay, so toodaloo. Okay, and get ready for the next video. Hi, this is Paul. I want to this is going to be a Mets rant on the New York Mets. I'm a New York Met fan. If you've probably seen this channel, you know that I'm a Met fan, and I go to a couple of games with my brother. And if you see, I got a bunch of hats and stuff, and bobbleheads and all that stuff. Hold on for a minute. This is my Francisco Lindor bobblehead that I got a couple of years ago. And I think they're giving away one on the 30th. So I'm trying to, because I was planning on going to that game on the 29th, which is a Friday night game. But I think they're giving his bobblehead away on that Saturday, which kind of makes me want to maybe go to that game and get another bobblehead. But it's a 4 o'clock game. I don't like day games. I wish that game was a night game. But I got to see what they're giving away on that 29th. But anyway, I'm a big Met fan, and I'm going to rant and rave because my Mets, since June, the Mets have a horrible record. The Mets started out great. Pete Alonso was basically carrying the team. Juan Soto kind of struggled in the beginning, and we know Francisco Lindor, he struggles before he gets hot. And right now, he's in a hot streak right now. But there's been moments where he's just been, and I think he broke his pinky toe on his foot and stuff, so he's been struggling. And the lineup, basically from like 6 to 9, has been struggling. They're struggling at certain points of the year. It's just, the Mets at the deadline, they basically bolstered the bullpen. They didn't. I think only 2 pitchers moved. Only 2 starting pitchers moved all at the deadline, at the trade deadline. The Mets fortified their bullpen and made it stronger. But the Mets have been, the Mets all season long basically haven't hit with runners in scoring positions. I think they're next to dead last in runs and hitting with runners on scoring position. They've just been absolutely awful. Okay, at that. And like I said, Juan Soto he's hit a lot of home runs. I think he even leads the Mets with 29 home runs. But most of his home runs have been solo shots, without runners on base. And I'm going to rant and rave, specifically about the rotation. And I blame David Stearns. He's the president of the Mets and stuff, because I don't think he has a GM. He's the president, but I don't think he's actually the president and the GM. But for him, this rotation that he put together is absolutely awful, god awful. Okay, first of all, we signed Frankie Montas, who was a pitcher who played for the Yankees, the Reds, the Brewers. Okay, he signed him to a 2-year contract. It was a 1-year contract with a player option. Okay, it was so basically a 2-year contract for $17 million, and he's definitely not worth it. He got hurt. He came into camp overweight. Okay, he got hurt. Okay, and he came back a couple of months ago, and he's been absolutely god awful. Okay, god awful. Even yesterday when they put him in a game that the Mets were losing, they were crap, and we should have known, because even in the when he was doing his rehab starts, they say he was getting rocked in the minor leagues. he was getting rocked left and right. And I think he only pitched one game since he's come up where he hasn't gotten rocked. Okay, he's just been god awful. Okay, and if it was up to me, I would just DFA him. Okay, I know you got to eat that money, but I would do. That's an awful signing, and that's another thing. David Stern has to stop doing these bargain basement hunting, because I know his philosophy is not to give any pitcher, starting pitchers, a 6 or 7 year contract, but he has to realize this is New York. Okay, David Stearns, this is New York. Okay, this is not Milwaukee or one of these small market towns. This is New York. You need an ace on your staff. You can't get by with having bums that you think, because they think their pitching lab is so great that they can rehab them. Now, Griffin Canning actually was pitching pretty good. He had an awful year with the Angels last year, and he signed with the Mets, and he was actually pretty good this season. And I think he tore his hamstring, and he's done for the year. Okay, and then they also signed Clay Holmes, who used to be the reliever for the Yankees, and they move him to be a starting pitcher. But it seems like he's running out of gas. He's only basically good for 3 innings, and before, like, his typical Clay Holmes start is that he's good for the first 3 innings. The 4th inning he'll give up 2 or 3 runs. The 5th inning he'll pitch good, and then he'll get yanked, because he's basically running out of. Because this is the most he's pitched in years, because he's been a reliever most of his career. Okay, and he really needs to be moved. They already moved Frankie Montas to the bullpen. They need to move Clay Holmes to the bullpen. Okay, so what they could do is either have him piggy bank against. Well, I don't know if he did it. He didn't do it today, because I think he's supposed to start tomorrow when they play that Little League field. When they play they play Seattle on that Little League field tomorrow. But they could let Clay Holmes piggyback, bring up Sprout and have him piggyback him. Let that guy pitch 5, see if he can give you 5 or 6 good innings, and let Clay Holmes come in and pitch 3 innings. I think Clay Holmes is a reliever. Okay, he's not a starting pitcher, and you can tell because he's never pitched that long. It's like he's just basically wearing down. Okay, so he's only basically good for 2 to 3 innings. That's it, max. Anything more than that, you're pushing it. Okay, and if I was the Mets, I would tell Clay Holmes at the end of the season, listen, Clay, first of all, I would put him this season, I'd put him in the bullpen and just tell him, I'm sorry, Clay, you're not going to be starting any of these. If we make the playoffs, and that's a big if, okay, you're going to be in the bullpen, okay? Okay, and I would, again, let those kids, let McClain, who they said pitched good, I got to look at those Met podcasts and see how he pitched. They said, according to one of those headlines, that he was filthy today. So that's good. So him, and bring up Sprout, okay? Maybe in Jonah Tong. He's in they just moved him up to AAA. But I think that might be pushing it. So I think just bring up Sprout and McClain, and put them in the rotation. Put Holmes in the bullpen. Okay? So you have Sprout, McClain, Senga, Manaea, and Peterson. And let those be the 5. Let those be the 5. I know the Mets have a 16-game stretch coming up after this weekend, because I think they're off Monday. And then from that Tuesday on, they play 16 games, I think, in 16 days. So they're probably going to need a 6th starter. But I would, and they DFA'd Paul Blackburn, which I have no problem doing that, because they just a DFA, too, of that reliever. I forgot his name. But they need to DFA him too. But they're probably going to need a 6th starter. So either they can either bring up another guy or have somebody piggy bank off that, or have Frankie. I would trust Frankie Montas to piggyback anybody, because he's just been god awful. He's basically batting practice. Okay, but anyway, and also, I don't know why, and I don't know what possessed Manaea to bring in Helsley that they got from St. Louis, because he's been awful. He's made 4 appearances and been rocked all 4 times. Okay, so why would you do it? You saw him do it the night before. Okay, he blew the game. Okay, that you played that last game against Atlanta. And then you bring him in again, and of course he craps the bed again. So how many times? No, you gotta. If I was Manaea, you sit down with him and the pitching coach and say, listen, okay, I don't know what's wrong with you mechanically or whatever, but you're not going to be. I'm not going to pull you. I'm not going to put you in the rotation unless we're getting blown out or something, or we're blowing out another team, and then I'll put you in for it, and hopefully you can work on your mechanics and get your head right. But there's no way in the world I'm putting you in, because I'm sick of you blowing games, okay? And that's reality. I'm not doing it, okay? We're trying to get to the playoffs, and you're blowing game for us, Okay, I'm not having it. Okay, so I'm telling you, you got to earn your spot back in the bullpen. Okay, because the 4 times we put you out there, you've been awful, god awful. Okay, so the only next time you're gonna get in there, if it's a blowout, we're winning by 10 runs or something, or we're losing by 10 runs, and then I'll put you in so you can work on your mechanics or something. But I'm not putting you in until you can prove to me that you can be the closer that you were supposed to be. Okay, and like I said, the as far as the lineup is concerned, Alvarez, I'm glad that they sent him down because now and yesterday he hit a 3-run homer and they said that make the game 11-9. And look at this, if Helmsley didn't blow the game, and then and I forgot the left-handed guy too, the Mets who came up and he pitched good so far, but yesterday he actually crapped the bed. The bullpen just completely fell apart yesterday, and just crapped the bed and gave up 11, gave up all those runs after the Mets got a 6-4 lead. It's just god awful. Okay, I'm just done with it. Okay, again, it's next season. What I can say, what I want the rotation to be: McLean, Sprout. You can have Peterson, Senga, and Manaya, and let one of the young kids, maybe Jonah Tong. I think because they'll let him probably be in AAA for most of the year, and if he's pitching good in the AAA, you can bring him up. Okay, let's bring him up, and he can even be a 6 starter. I think the Mets have good young talent. Okay, along with these veteran talents, and during the offseason also, again, the Mets should have traded. They got basically 4 guys for 2 positions. Okay, and I'm talking about Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, Mauricio, and Acuna. Okay, who's in the minor leagues. Okay, and Vientos, I think he played yesterday, but he's been on the bench, and this is not going to work. Okay, you're going to have to pick a third baseman and stick with it. Okay, and pick a second. I know they potentially got a second baseman in the minor leagues, and I think Jet Williams. So that position can probably be filled maybe in spring training. If you have a good spring training, you can bring him up with the team. And I would trade Jeff, as much as I like Jeff McNeil, I would trade him during the offseason and get him off the team, get that salary off the team. Because look at it. Marte is going to be gone. Jesse Winker is going to be gone. Between the two of them, that's $30 million right there. Okay? And if you trade McNeil, I don't know how much McNeil is making, maybe 12 or something million. You get rid of him. I would trade McNeil for whatever I could get. As much as I like McNeil, I would trade him. So that way, second base is clear for either Jet Williams to win the position or somebody, or maybe Mauricio can win that position. I stick Brett Beatty at third base. I stick him at third base and give him a shot in spring training to win that position. Say, listen, okay, I trade Mark Vientos and Acuna during the off season. If I get some, maybe you can get some relievers or something for them. But I would trade Mark Vientos and Acuna. Just trade them. You don't need it. You got too many infield positions anyway, and not enough people. So I would trade Mark Vientos as much as he did last year, and I love what he did last year. He fell apart this year. Okay, and let him be somebody else's problem. Maybe he can get his stuff back together and return to all-star form. And I really like Mark Vientos, and I really thought that if he had a great year this year, the Mets wouldn't be in the position that we are in right now, because he sucked the first half, then he got hurt, went down, came back, and looked like he was getting there a little bit, but he doesn't even have 8 home runs. I think he got 6 home runs. I don't know what he did during the offseason and he just seemed like he's completely lost it. But you got too many guys for too few positions. So I would stick Brett Beatty on third, who plays a better third base, and maybe Mauricio, and I would have Mauricio, who has potential. You can tell his potential. He's probably the most talented out of all those guys down there. I'd have him play winter ball so he can learn the strike zone and learn how to hit. He's a switch hitter, but he's better at hitting lefty. I would let him go to winter ball and work on his hitting and stuff. And maybe, like I said, between him and Mauricio, him and Jet Williams, it'll be down to one of those two to be the second baseman. And I think Jet Williams also plays center field as well. So let's say Mauricio can play, he win a ball, he learns how to hit, he learns the strike zone better. You put him at second, and he can also he can spell Lindor when you give him an off day, and maybe put Jet Williams in center field. Okay, you can put maybe Jet Williams will play center field for you. Okay, and I think what you also do, you re-sign Pete. Okay, give him the money, let him be a Met for life, give him a 4 or 5 year contract. Okay, and give him the money and let him. We're stuck with Brandon Nimmo because I think he got like 5 more years on his contract, so he's not going anywhere. Nobody's taking that contract. So you gotta be, you're stuck with Brandon Nimmo, and I like Brandon Nimmo, but it's just that contract was ridiculous they gave him. Okay, and let's see what else. I'm trying to think. Alvarez, like I said, I like what he's doing. I would let him pitch, I let him play as many. I know you got to give him a day off because he's a catcher. You don't want him to get beat up too much. But he would get the bulk of the playing time like he's doing right now because he's actually improved his stroke and stuff and everything else. And I would fire those hitting coaches. I'm sorry, I would. I would fire those hitting coaches. You can fire them in the offseason. You don't have to do it now, but you fire them and you get a different hitting coach. I know most major league players, they have their own hitting coaches and stuff. But for your team philosophy, you're going to have one team philosophy. So I would go out there and try to get the best hitting coach available and change the Mets' approach to hitting. Okay, because they're lousy at hitting with runners in scoring position. They don't play small ball. Okay, they don't move runners along. They're absolutely horrible. That would be my function. If I was David Stearns, I would go out and get the best hitting coach I could find. Somebody that could teach them how to hit with runners in scoring position, how to play small ball. Do that. The Mets are stealing bases at a fantastic clip. But if they knew how to do small ball, they could get run. And a perfect example was the other night when David Wright was first and third and 2 outs, and 1 out, and David Wright, instead of hitting the ball in the air for a sacrifice fly, he hits a ball right to third for a perfect double play. Hits a ground ball straight to double play. Instead of pulling the ball, David Wright, you should have hit the ball. Should have been hitting the ball towards right field and hopefully hitting it and elevating the ball so you can hit a sacrifice fly. Not pulling the ball, David Wright. It's 1 out and you got runners on first and third. You got to get that run in. You can't spare that runner. Okay, you got to impress. If I'm Carlos Mendoza, I would stress that during spring training. We're gonna stress moving the runners along, playing small ball. You gotta move the runners along. You gotta do that. And you gotta also tell Juan Soto, stop trying to hit home runs every time at bat. You can see he's over swinging a lot of the time, even though he got 29 home runs. But you can tell he's over swinging. Where a base hit or double will do just as fine. Juan, we don't need you to hit a home run every time. That's not your game. You're a pure hitter. Okay, so do that. Okay, and stop trying to hit home runs. I think Ron Soto will be okay starting next year. Just you got to kind of adjust. It's just his first year, and you got to kind of adjust and stuff. But I think he'll be all right going forward. Okay, now what else? Yeah, the rotation. Like I said, bring up those 2 young kids. But I would also, if I could get an ace on this team, I don't know. Like I said, maybe the guy from Miami, Alcantara. I think the guy from Miami. If you could trade Vientos to Miami, Vientos, Acuna, and give him one of those pitchers, maybe they'll give you Alcantara. Maybe they'll give him to you. He's a young guy with lots of potential. Okay, and he's young. Okay, and you can put him in their rotation too. That's what I say. I trade, like I said, I trade McNeil too, because you got to get that. You got to clear second base. Okay, second base for either Jet Williams or Mauricio. Okay, so I'm sorry, Jeff McNeil. Thank you for your service, but you got to go. Okay, I think he has 1 more year left on his contract, so you got to trade Jeff McNeil. Okay, maybe like I said, maybe the Marlins will take him. We trade him, Vientos and Acuna for Alcantara. Maybe they'll give him to you, but you need a stud in that lineup. Okay, somebody that can pitch at least 6 to 7 innings. The Mets need that bad, and I blame, again, like I said, I blame David Stern for that. Because he's the one that put together this Frankenstein of a rotation, that's been absolutely horrible. Okay, because I know his philosophy is that you don't want to pay 6 or 7 years for pitching contracts, but you need an ace. If you want to win a championship, you need at least 1 ace on your staff. Okay, you can have a bunch of 3s and 4s and here and there, but you got to have at least 1 ace on your staff if you want to win. Okay, that's my philosophy. You can't be having these pitching projects. Okay, I'm sorry, you can't do it. Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, Griffin Canning, those are projects. Okay, you're in New York and you want to win a championship. You can't win a championship with projects, and that's why I would DFA Frankie Montas after this season. You got to eat that money for 1 year, but you're gonna have to do it. I would do that. I would eat that money and tell Frankie Montas, bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. Goodbye. And I tell Clay Holmes, you're going to the bullpen, okay? You can pitch, come out of the bullpen, pitch us, give us 2 innings, or 1 inning, but you're going to be a reliever because that's what's best for you. Okay, we've seen it. You're running out of gas, trying to be a starter. Okay, you're running out of gas. I have to tell him, listen, you got 2 more years here. We're going to stick you in the bullpen. Stick him in the bullpen. I'm sorry, that's it. You can't do much about Sanger because he has something floating in his elbow and he may or may not get surgery. So you're basically stuck with him. You got him a 3-year contract, so you're basically stuck with him. And you just hope that maybe the surgery won't be that invasive and he can, be ready in time for spring training. And again, Sanger is fragile, and unfortunately, he is what he is. So you're going to have to basically live with it because he is what he is. And like I said, David Peterson is probably the most potential. Like I said, he's good when he's good, even though last week he was god-awful, couldn't get out of the 4th inning. But for the most part, he's been good. He's been the only pitcher that's been consistently getting into the 6th and 7th inning. And he pitched a complete game. I remember that game, watching that game, that he pitched that complete game. Again, the Mets have good young people in their farm system to mix with their veterans. Okay, and that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Like I said, maybe this is the start of a turnaround for the Mets. I'm hoping this could be the start of a turnaround with McLean, and I'm glad he came and pitched good. And I'll watch the highlights later, but I'm still not watching the game tomorrow. Okay, maybe I can change the luck with the Mets. When I'm watching it again, maybe they'll win again tomorrow. But now that you got him, McLean, bring up Sprout and let him start. Put Holmes in the bullpen, Clay Holmes in the bullpen. Even though I know tomorrow he's probably going to start anyway, they need to put him in the bullpen. Okay, because if he does what he did again, if he can't get past the 5 innings again, I'm sorry, Clay Holmes, you got to tell him you're going to the bullpen too. Okay, I'm sorry. DFA Ryan Stanek. That's what I'm talking about. DFA, and that's what we should DFA Ryan Stanek and bring up Sprout. Okay, that's what the Mets should do. So let me know what you think of my suggestions. I know a lot of people. Some people are also thinking about maybe firing Mendoza, but I can't. Mendoza. Some of his decisions have been questionable, but I can't blame him for the starting rotation because he's using what he has, what he's been given. And that's on David Stearns. And also, these relievers lately imploding. Although, like I said, I do blame him for bringing in Helsley again yesterday when he spit the bed 3 times. How many more times do you have to see him spit the bed before you get it in your head that for whatever reason he's sucking and you don't need him out there, okay, until he can prove his wares, prove himself. Anyway, again, let me know what you think of my the Mets and my suggestions of what they should do going forward for this season and for next season. I definitely think they should do what I said, and hopefully we'll re-sign Pete, trade McNeil, Acuna, and Vientos, and let Mauricio and Jet Williams either battle out for second base. If Mauricio wins that, you can put Jet Williams in center field for next season. Let Brett Beatty, I tell him, Brett Beatty, the third base job is yours. Okay, yours to lose. Okay, that's what I would tell him, the third base job. So let Brett Beatty going into next season, knowing that he's going to be the third baseman going forward. Okay, so that way, and then let him play consistent. Let's see what he does in the first half of the season. Okay, and you go from there. And like I said, the rotation, again, you got the 2 young kids. You got McLean, Sprout, Peterson, Manaea, Sanger, and like I said, maybe you can trade for Alcantara from the Marlins, okay? And that'll be your 6-man. Go with a 6-man rotation. That'll be it, okay? So anyway, let me know what you think of my suggestions for my New York Mets, who have really been putting me through it lately, okay? In the description box are links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. Also a link to my main channel, Trepacer, in the description box as well. Also a link down below to my Patreon. My Patreon is only $5 a month, over 200 videos on there. 5 different categories. You get 5-minute preview clips of all the content that's on there. Follow the link, it'll take you there. Also have a link down below to my merchandise store. As you can see, I'm wearing my t-shirt with my Trepacer logo. I also have the spherical circles, that's the other logo. I have on t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, water bottles, teddy bears. For men, women, unisex. Follow the link, it'll take you to the merchandise store. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel, and I truly appreciate it. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new content to this channel. And this is Paul saying so long and take care.